What makes someone a balanced leader? Hey there, this is your friend and guide, Caroline. On today's Balanced Leader, my incredible guest and I share strategies to help you lead with confidence, stay resilient, and avoid burnout. This isn't just about leadership, it's about thriving holistically in mind, body, and spirit. Ready to recalibrate? Well, let's dive in and create the balanced life you deserve. Welcome to this episode of today's Balanced Leader. Today we've got Jayna Swan with us. I'm so excited to have her. She's a dynamic speaker, coach, and creator committed to empowering women in business to regulate their emotions, save time, and prioritize meaningful connections with loved ones. As the founder of Swan Academy, she offers keynote speaking, corporate trainings, high-level coaching, retreats, and a very innovative app for healthy emotional regulation that I want you to check out. Jayna's expertise lies in helping clients overcome challenges by leveraging the mind-body connection and through NLP, enhancing communication and implementing mindset shifts for personal and professional growth, offering masterclasses on these topics. With a mission to impact 100 million lives by 2030, she has already achieved over 20 million through her viral content and transformative work. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you. Yeah, I always tell my listeners we always get to chat prior to hitting record. So I'm super excited because there's so many things that we align with, but I love kind of your thought process on some of them. So this is going to be a really great episode for a lot of our leaders and entrepreneurs around understanding themselves a little bit more, I think. So thank you. So let's get right into it. And Jayna, let's talk a little bit about communication, because that's really a hot topic and so vital in business, because if you don't have communication, you're going to struggle. But what do you think some of the key communication techniques are that you teach leaders and things that they can implement almost immediately to help them become stronger communicators?
There are so many things that we as leaders can do to be master communicators. And I think here are a few that I tell everybody that works with me in a coaching environment or in a workshop. Is the very first one that we want to do.
Loving this conversation? Well, just wait. There's more to uncover. If today's discussion is resonating with you already, imagine what could happen if you took that next step. Stay with me because I've got something that will help you lead with confidence and clarity. Are you leading or are you just surviving? If you're feeling stuck, overworked, and invisible in your leadership role, this is your wake-up call. Hi, I'm Caroline, and I've seen it all. As an HR director, I watched leaders promoted for their skills, but then left to sink or swim in their new roles. No mentorship, no guidance, just trial by fire. But let me tell you, there's a better way. My Strategic Leadership Accelerator program is a 10-week private coaching program designed to take you from overwhelmed and undervalued to thriving as a high-impact, respected leader. You'll learn how to reclaim your confidence and your voice, master proven strategies to secure promotions, raises, and the respect you deserve, and finally achieve work-life balance without burning out through boundaries. It's time to step into the leader you were born to be. Don't wait another day to create the career and the life you so deserve. Visit my website at carolinebear.com or click the link in the show notes to learn more and book your spot today. The Strategic Leadership Accelerator program, because thriving leaders don't just happen, they're made. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
The very first one that we want to do is we want to shift the spotlight off of us and onto the person that we're speaking to or people that we're speaking to. And part of this is that master communicators recognize that it's not about how we say it, but what they hear. So if you're recognizing the person in front of you isn't getting what you're saying, it's stopping and deciding to say it in a new way. Have you ever been that person who's like, you just stop and you say it slower and louder and slower and louder and they still don't get it? And we're just like, why aren't you getting this? It's because they're not acting as a master communicator. And a master communicator will stop and say, okay, they need to hear it differently. Because here's the next thing is recognizing that everybody has a different speaking and listening style. So this one thing will change the game for you in your business. I guarantee anyone working in teams and anyone working with other humans needs to understand the person that I'm talking to right now, are they listening to me literally or are they listening to me inferentially? And that's something that is so important because how we communicate, if you're speaking to someone who's very literal, they're going to take every single thing that you say exactly as you say it. A quick story, I was chatting with someone, we were both trainers, and so we're on stage chatting between a session. And my partner had just lost his father, unfortunately. And so I'm telling her, I'm like, she's like, how is Tom? I'm like, he's all right. His heart's just in a weird place right now. She goes, oh my God, is it like to the side? Is it like, do you realize that she is a literal listener? And so much so that she thought his heart was literally in a different place. I was inferentially saying he's just having a hard time emotionally. And so that is such a small piece. But if you can recognize that you, as the leader, as the speaker, are the one that needs to be flexible. So sometimes you're speaking to someone and it needs to be literal. Sometimes you're speaking to someone, it needs to be inferential. That's for you to find out. That's where being a master communicator comes in. And so the way that people listen can sometimes be different than how they speak. So also paying attention to that as well. So those are two really, really amazing ways to be a master communicator and a leader. And the last one I'll leave you with that's really poignant is something called chunking. It doesn't sound very pretty, but it's super convenient for being able to control the flow of a conversation. So as you're having a conversation and you're finding this person's really in the specifics, in the weeds, we would say, how do you get them out of that? How do you get them from being so like zoned in on these tiny little details? Well, it's what we call chunking up. You want to go big picture with it. And so you would then ask them a question that gets them to go bigger picture. So maybe they're looking at the tires on the car. And then you would say, okay, so what role does this play in the car? You want to get their now thought processes on the car. Maybe you go from the car to vehicles. That's an even bigger picture. And so we can continue to chunk up from vehicles to transportation and on and on. That's how we get people to pull out of that. Sometimes we have the opposite. Sometimes people live in the clouds. Maybe they're too big picture, and you're like, okay, Susie, bring it down. We need a couple bullet points here. Like, what are the specific actions? How you do that is you just say, how specifically? So, what specifically can I do to help you with that, Susan? And then maybe she gets down and she's real specific and you take her big picture again. That's easy. Just go, okay, for what purpose am I doing that one action? That takes her big picture. So, what specifically is how you would get more detail from someone? And then for what purpose or for what intention is how you get more big picture. Those three things alone shift the spotlight off of you onto them, literal versus inferential, and going big picture and small and like going up and down and controlling that conversation. Those three things will make you a master communicator. They will set you up for success as a leader, and it will get people to follow you with more ease and more confidence.
Those are great examples. I've done a podcast episode on being an active listener. And I love your first one because it really is understanding their style of listening, their style of communicating, because so often people have these perceptions of what an individual is saying or has done or means by that. And how many times I was in the HR world. And so in that space, I would often hear, Johnny was blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, Johnny's like, no, I didn't. So it's a matter of perception and understanding. And sometimes when we do exactly those three examples that you gave us, we can understand where people, what they truly mean and where their miss, if you will, is in understanding it so that we can change how we communicate moving forward with them, because we can't treat everybody with the same paintbrush, right? They're all going to be different. So I love those examples. Thank you for that, because that is something I think communication, particularly as we get busier in this fast-paced world, has really suffered as a result of not having the time. And so sometimes we can assume that we mean something because we don't provide enough information. We don't provide the big picture. We don't provide the details. So I love those examples. Thank you so much.
So many people get so focused on what they're saying and not what's being heard. And it's
Correct.
really just taking that step back. And it's like, how are they hearing me that they got to that conclusion? And I think that's just a different way of thinking.
Yes, yes. And having them restate it back to you sometimes, right, is so important just so that you can know which elements they heard and which maybe they didn't, or which they're struggling with. To your point, where are they in the weeds or too high? And how do we make sure that we're both on the same page so that there's no surprises? Because that's, as a leader at the end of the day, if you're speaking to one of your direct reports or a colleague and off they go and do something, if you're not in alignment, it's not going to work. So communication is key. Yeah.
And it's best to just ask up front. I had a conversation with my team and I'm like, what do you think? Do you like specific details or do you like more big picture? And I just let them tell me what they need. And that works so much better than assuming everybody likes details like me or everybody
Yes.
likes big picture like me. And so, assumptions don't get us anywhere.
Yes, yes. I've often suggested when people are a new leader to a team or when you're onboarding somebody that your first day should not be training. Your first day should be getting to know each other. And
Mhm.
so having those conversations of how do you like to communicate? How do you like to receive feedback? How do you like to receive accolades? What information is important to you? Okay, well, as your leader, this is what's important to me. This is how I like to receive information. I don't expect you to reply to or to let me know about absolutely everything going on, but here are the key things or the types of things that I want to recap on or be aware of. I think it just helps to set the stage at the beginning that you are able to move quicker in onboarding that individual or rebuilding that trust with that team because you've had that integration with them to be able to understand each other and what's important to you and maybe where there are pain points and things that didn't work before that really frustrated you, right?
Absolutely. Everybody wants to be seen and heard.
Yes, yeah. So, Jenna, you've helped leaders align their goals with their values, and that's huge because a lot of times we have company goals and sometimes they don't align with our values. And I think it's so important and something I've been focusing on in my business of coaching, where we really want to look at your values first because that is so important at the end of the day. I'd love to hear what your process is for helping someone identify kind of where they're out of alignment.
Yeah, such a great question because values are really important conversation to have. They are the basis of everything that we do, all of our behaviors. So if you're not behaving in alignment with where you'd like to be, really, so many people look at everything else except their values. And that can be the fastest and easiest solution is to look at the values. Now, the first obstacle I run into when I'm dealing with values with a client or anybody at all is that typically people will first say words that they want, right? They'll say the words that sound good or those words they've been hearing out there, like
The
they'll
buzzword.
say like yeah buzzwords or oh loyalty or honesty or like and but is that really? So I do walk people through values and we'll get their entire list out and we'll order it and we'll do it and then I'll stop and I'll say okay cool, this value of say they used integrity, this value of integrity, where does this show up in your life? What behaviors do you have on your day-to-day basis that show me that this is a value? And they just look at me with wide eyes and they go, I don't. I'm like, okay, so this isn't a value. And I think that's the conversation more people need to have. It's because we have these words written on a paper in front of us and we think that that's a value
Mhm.
when really a value is the result of. So I would ask anybody who is really trying to find that alignment is that if your current behaviors, the behaviors you do without thinking about it, I know we're in January, a lot of people tend to sit here and they go, oh, I've got this new habit. You're actively trying to eat better. You're actively trying to move or do the different habit. I'm talking about the behaviors where you just do it anyways. These automatic behaviors. When you start to audit those, I would ask you to ask yourself, what value would I need to have this behavior? What would I, and when you start basically you're deconstructing your values and going the backwards way of looking at the behavior first to be able to then tell you what your values are versus you saying, these are my values. Because I'll tell you that if we're not in alignment with your values, everything's going to feel off. You're going to want to sleep more. You're going to be tired. You're going to have zero motivation. You're going to just, your body might start to ache. Your body might start to have pains and different things. And it's really just your body trying to tell you, this isn't right. This isn't for you. I started getting into a bad business deal a couple months back and I developed eyelid eczema from it. I started like my eyes almost swole shut. They were big red raccoon eyeballs and it was so bad. And it wasn't till I looked at my phone photo album where every time I had a flare up, I'd take a picture. And then I looked at my calendar and I was like, oh, direct correlation with meetings with a gentleman that I was getting into a business deal with, that my body was saying, no, please don't do it. So I told him kindly, I don't think that this is right for me. It's not in alignment. And immediately, 2 days later, my eyes cleared up. I'd
Wow.
had that for 8 weeks. My eyes were going bad. So I am very passionate when it comes to people being in alignment because here's the truth: resistance is a sign of lack of rapport. And that's not just with another human. Rapport can also be with ourselves. So if you are in life or in business and you are finding there's resistance in everything that you're doing and you're fighting uphill battle like a salmon swimming upstream, if that's you, there's something not right. Because I'll tell you, it can and it should be easy and effortless. While there is hard work involved, yes, life can flow and it can seemingly be easy. And that is when you know you're in alignment. So that's where I'll leave this point, is that if you're in a space where something just doesn't feel right, trust yourself. That's your intuition trying to tell you. And it might not be a huge life change, might not be a whole new career. It might just be a small pivot in how you are doing and how you're showing up to things. So it's really sitting down, taking your behaviors first and saying, what value would I need to have these behaviors? That's your true value set. And then if you want to shift that, that's when you would then work with a practitioner like yourself or myself. And then we can walk through different things. Because I know with my clients, I help them shift their values on a subconscious level. So
Mhm.
it's not just rewriting it on a piece of paper, it's actually locking it in on an unconscious, subconscious level so that they can naturally show up in their behaviors. So the value set that you have is so important.
Yeah, and I'm actually working with somebody right now. We're working on exactly that through setting non-negotiables, but also through reflection, right? When we reflect without judgment, it allows us in so many ways to rewire how we think. Because a lot of times we've talked earlier about the shame and blame. And so I think, when we allow ourselves to put our values first, to your point, life is so much easier. And when you start to feel the symptoms that Jana spoke about. A lot of people know that I suffered from fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is a result of trauma. So it's, when you're not in alignment, your body starts to speak to you through the aches and pains. It's not always just age. And so, really taking a step back and revisiting that is so important. Yeah, thank you. That one's a big one for me, obviously. So, yeah. I think one of the things too, Jana, is when we think about all the work that we have to do, and I've mentioned it already, there's so many expectations on businesses nowadays. There's been layoffs, there's more work for people to do, and a lot of times, and I've coached people through this. When you lose colleagues, you get more work, but you don't remove any of the other stuff. And, I talk to them about a stop, start, continue. But there's ways that you can automate tasks. And I think automating things for leaders and for entrepreneurs is really important because it can remove some of the tedious work, right? To allow us to work on the other things that bring value, that really drive what we're trying to accomplish. What is one thing that you think is overlooked, an overlooked area where automation can really save significant time and energy?
So, going into this conversation, I want to set a precedence because I know this is a big topic right now, using AI in business. And I think that I want to set a clarity for where I come from. And that is that I love the use of AI when it comes to automating tasks that are not human connection related. Meaning, I would never encourage someone to automate creativity and creation. There are plenty of people, oh, yeah, create an ebook in 30 minutes. Yes, but what? Who are you going to connect with an ebook that clearly is going to read like it was written in 30 minutes? I think there's still room for creation. There's still room for that. And AI is here to give us more time for creation. AI is here to support us so that we can spend more time connecting. AI is here to help us so that we can do the research quicker. I think that's where I love using AI because I could spend hours and hours going down rabbit holes, but AI can give me a synopsis of that and I can trust that it's a good source. So I would say, yes, use AI for the research behind your things. Use AI to take a post you've already written, already seen do well, and then have it turn into 3 other types of posts using that same information. Still your info, still your voice, still your idea, just simply using it to put it into different formats. That's where I think AI can be super helpful. Additionally, in business, we're in a world where there are so many platforms that have AI built into them now that if you actually take just a little bit of time up front, okay, let me be real, take a lot of time up front, but if you do actually sit down, or I bet all of you leaders here have someone you can delegate this to who is going to be a master who person who already knows how to do this. What you do is if you can automate a few different things in your world, you can release all of that time, allowing you to actually spend time building your team, actually spending time connecting with your clients, spending time in those areas. And I think one of the things that we don't necessarily think about automating, that we could automate in a small way, is like we lose sight of our own day-to-day tasks. Like we get caught up in our day-to-day tasks. We lose sight of the annual tasks. So what I would say is automate something small, like a pop-up on your phone that maybe pops up 2 or 3 times a day that reminds you what's your big picture goal. Because what's happening is that we get so caught up in our day-to-day meetings that we forget what is that big picture, right? So if you can automate something popping up like that just to remind you of like, hey, because I do everything that I do to help women spend more time with their kids. That's a big, big push for me. I do not have children of my own, but my job is to help others. That is something that if I lose sight, then I will end up spending more time worried about the ROI. I'll spend more time worried about, is this picture the right picture? It doesn't matter. Is it helping a woman spend more time with her kids? No, then I'm not going to do it. Right. But I need that reminder. And sometimes a sticky note that sits on my screen 24/7, it dissolves into the ether because I just don't even see it. So having something pop on your phone. The other thing that I would tell you as far as automation, it's almost the opposite of automation, is do the very opposite. Control what notifications actually do get through to you. And so this is actually like literally the opposite. Instead of automating things to show up for you, it's go and clear out in your settings, turn off all notifications. The only ones you should have are things for like medications, your alarms for certain high profile meetings, this little pop up that reminds you of what your goals are, things like that that are absolutely necessary. But social media should not pop up on your phone ever. I would not recommend email popping up on your phone ever. Right? These are the things that disconnect us. So, in this world of AI, how can we use AI to continue to connect us versus disconnecting us? And in this way, this taking away of the notifications allows you to remain connected with whoever you're presently in the room with or on a call with. Because even if your phone is right in front of you on silent, nothing, but the screen lights up and it's like social media, this, your brain now cannot keep focused on what's in front of you because it's thinking, well, what is that message? What is that? What? Even if it's nothing. Susie over here liked my photo. Great. Thanks, Susie. I really appreciate it. But like, you just ruined the last 20 minutes of my meeting. No, that's blame shifting. I'm going to take the accountability that I had my notifications on. So the tip is turn off all of your notifications. That way you can be fully present in everything you're doing and utilize automation within all the programs you're using. We have things, there are so many different booking programs that allow for automated emails that will save you endless hours and hours not following up with people. So use the basic automations and just get familiar, right? Especially because I assume a majority of people Again, assumption, and that can get us in trouble, but I'm assuming a majority of people potentially have iPhones. iPhones have the Shortcuts app. If you just spend a few minutes in the Shortcuts app, you will find that you can set up automations in your phone right there. Things you do each and every day. And I think my favorite automation, I'll just plug this in there, is actually I have my personal app that I built and launched last year, pops up on my phone 3 different times throughout the day. It allows me to go, yep, time to meditate, because it pops up and I'm like, cool, now it's time to meditate. It's time to do the thing. Otherwise, I might go all day without thinking about that. So
I love
those
that.
are
And I did not know that the iPhone had that. So I'm going to look into that, because normally what I'll do is I'll set a timer for myself. So my phone dings at me and I'm like, okay, now I know it's time. Or I actually put it in my calendar, time to meditate, whatever, which not everybody can do when you're in the corporate world, or necessarily if you're an entrepreneur. But yes, I think the notifications is huge. I have same thing. I have another client. She works in the corporate world, where there's the messages, that you can have that conversation with your colleagues that are at work. She says that it dings every time that a message is sent. And I was like, you got to turn that off, because it distracts you from whatever you're working on. It'll end up taking you longer to complete a task, because to your point, you're going to glance. Simon Sinek actually speaks about it, and I'm sure you've seen it, where he talks about, if I'm speaking to somebody and I want to give them my full attention, here I am in presence. Now, if I have a phone in my hand, do you feel that I have given you my full attention? Even though it's not ringing or lighting up or anything, just the fact that you have the phone in the hand shows somebody that they're not as important, or you're not completely invested in whatever it is they're saying. So yeah, I love turning things off, except for the reminders for meetings and things like that. Aside from that, it's just, you know what, I'll get to it when I get to it. So I love that. Thank you.
I've
That
lived
is a
with my
great. And I think, sorry, I was going to say, and I think leveraging AI, so many people are afraid of it, but it does have its use. It's not there to do your job. It's there. And I love how you said to not to use it for that human connection, but for the tedious tasks or the research. And sometimes I even use it for, here, I've written this. Can you just kind of clean it up, or can you make it more personal, or can you make it more bold, or whatever that is. But at the end of the day, you're still rereading it and making sure that it's your voice, your message.
using AI for strategy is perfect. Use it to help you with different things. Like even idea generation is good, but then you take over. Now it's your turn to step in and be like, cool, thanks, AI. It's almost like it's a team, like anything else. And you just want to make sure it has your personal touch on there, your personal spin on things. I think
Yes,
is a really great way to go about that.
love that. Love that. Let's shift a little bit and talk about how people are feeling nowadays. So I often hear people telling me, and I'm sure you hear it, we're stressed, we're overwhelmed, we're burnt out. Choose whatever the word is of the month that you want to slot in there. And that really plays on your emotional regulation, right? And it prevents you from bringing your best self forward. I mean, there's so many elements to it, right? Because you've spoken about there's the mind body connection. But when we think about emotional regulation, what would you say is a method to assist with regulating yourself again, and how to harness this connection to improve their performance as a leader?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think that the true easiest answer right off the tip of my tongue is movement. Movement is always and always will be my first and foremost recommendation for anyone. It has been proven time and time again that movement can create chemistry in your body that is really, really good for motivation and drive and for making you feel better. It can reduce your pain. There's so much out there. There's a book called The Joy of Movement. If you want more scientific backing behind that, it gets into the brain chemistry, it gets into all the things, and I geeked out over it, loved it. But movement. So if you are struggling in a lot of ways, movement can help. It's something that truly can hold us to the person that we want to be, because there is a level of us becoming something else when we're moving. And it's extremely important to include movement. Movement's the first thing that I talk about in the app. And it's always my first go-to is if you want to take that next step, take that next literal step.
Before we dive back in, I need you to do something for yourself. Pause for just a second and ask yourself, When's the last time you truly stopped? Not just a day off, not just a break between meetings, but a real intentional pause to reset your mind, body, and soul. If you're like most leaders and entrepreneurs, you're always moving, always giving, always thinking about the next thing. But here's the truth. You can't lead powerfully if you're running on empty. That's why I created my virtual retreats. And in February, Reclaiming Your Energy is the theme. This is a spa-like experience for your soul. 3 hours on a Sunday, designed for leaders and entrepreneurs who are ready to break the cycle of burnout and step back into their power. In this immersive experience, we'll use meditation, sound healing, Reiki, trauma-informed movement, and intuitive exercises to help you release stress, reconnect with your inner wisdom, and walk away feeling clear, grounded, and energized. The first one is happening Sunday, February 23rd, and you can sign up now at carolinebear.com or join the wait list for exclusive details and discounts. Better yet, bring a friend. Imagine stepping into your next level of leadership together. Spots are limited, so don't wait. Head to carolinebear.com now and let's reclaim your energy. All right, now let's get back to today's conversation.
Go outside, go for a walk. Even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes, it will make you feel better. Pop in a book or some headset and get some podcast rolling. It's such a great way to boost your mood and to get yourself into a better place, because healthy emotional regulation comes from regulating your emotions, and our emotions are just energy in motion. And so what's happening is that we have the energy come up, anger, sadness, hurt, fear, guilt, shame, whatever it is. And we're like, oh, I'm in a meeting. I can't get angry right now. And so we push it down. Oh, we get sad. Can't cry right now. I'm at work. Push it down. Oh, got yelled at. Now I'm frustrated. So we just keep pushing it down until it boils, and then pop, we yell at that new employee. Pop, we yell at the other person. Like, we end up exploding rage on someone because we have not done what we need to do. So my encouragement to you is to recognize that emotions are just energy, and all that's happening is that we just need to move the energy through the body. So if you get angry, go for a walk. I also like to recommend with anger specifically, it's really nice if you can yell. So if you have like a pillow, just like put your head in the pillow and just yell or scream. That can get that energy out of your body really easily. But if not, then just move your body. Maybe you just stand in the middle of the room with a upbeat song, you just jump for a little bit, or you just like shake your body or move around. Animals, after they like get chased and almost eaten and like, about to die or whatever, to get all of that extra juice out of them, all that adrenaline, they shake. And so it's such a good thing when you're feeling anger and all these frustrations. If you're not on a video call right shake, just get up and shake, right? It's do the thing. And so these are the easy things that you can do. You can yell, you can shake, you can go for a walk. If you are in a position where you can go to a gym and like lift weights for a small bit, that would be super helpful as well. Maybe you just throw on some music that's upbeat that you just want to dance to. It'll just put you in a good mood, help you move around, because that movement is going to get that energy out of you. And then later on, you can go and you can journal and you can reflect and you can say, okay, why did I get angry? What triggered me? And then you can do the work on the trigger, and then you won't have that same problem. So that's kind of where I would encourage you there, is just first and foremost, move your body.
Yeah, no, I think movement is so often overlooked. It is definitely the game changer. And one of the things that I did at one of my retreats was movement around, let's play one song and move, punch, whatever you feel like doing. All the negative, all the stuff that pisses you off, all the stuff that makes you angry, that makes you feel like crap. Okay, now the next song, it's all about love. And now we're going to, just, it's all positive. It's all, I've got this, I'm empowered, right? It's amazing how just that short of a time you can make a difference. And as you were talking, all I could visualize, we were talking about memes ahead of time. All I could visualize was that person that's sitting in their car with the music cranked because they can't go into their house until they settle down. So I think movement is key. Yeah, definitely. And it's a great way to release. So, but you still got to do the work, to your point.
Of course. Yeah. The movement's just to get the energy to come down. And then you got to still do that, or else you're just going to get triggered again. You're just going to move a lot. And there's benefits to moving a lot,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you want to actually move through it. So there's a second half to that. But movement's for sure the easiest way to kind of get the ball rolling when it comes to all of this. So would highly recommend. And it doesn't have to look good. Trust me, it just has to feel good. So worry more about how you feel than what you look like. Just lock yourself in a quiet, dark room and have fun.
That's right. Go into the bathroom and shake like a dog.
Exactly.
So we've touched a little bit on this, but I've worked with business leaders who sometimes struggle with that personal human connection, right? And it's tough at times because there's finding that balance. So, what do you think is the most common barrier that they face when they're trying to prioritize that personal connection? And how can they overcome that?
This is all assumption at this point because I don't know exactly who's listening to this podcast. So nothing that I say at this point is directed towards anyone. Just going to say that. And I do believe that a lot of people have the problem of when they go into a conversation, they are more focused on what that person thinks of them than what is actually there. So again, that idea of shifting the spotlight, that idea of thinking more about the other person, that's where we allow empathy to join the chat. That's where we allow ourselves to really, I think it's focusing more on understanding, even though we will never fully understand another human because we'll never have walked their shoes. But that seeking of understanding, that curiosity. I think if you can bring curiosity and seeking understanding to a conversation, there is more room for natural empathy. You won't have to try for it. You're not going to have to fake it. You're not going to have to say things that you don't mean just to get them to feel nice. You're literally just trying to understand. And I think that's what's going to help with that human connection. Because like I said earlier, people just want to be seen and heard. And so it doesn't take much. It takes sitting down and asking a question, and instead of thinking of your next response as they're talking about it, which is something a lot of us do, we don't want to admit it, but we all do it, right? Instead of trying to think about, okay, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? Just stop, get curious, and ask another question. Stop trying to tell and start trying to ask. And so it's less about, okay, that's cool. Here's my part of it, right? Everybody's waiting to respond to put their part of things. It's more just continuously asking them questions, especially in an HR role or in a role of a leader where you're with a team member and maybe you're trying to work through something, or it's a new team member, you're trying to establish that connection the first time. That level of curiosity is so rare because families don't even get curious about each other anymore, let alone careers. So if, say, I'm that employee and I'm walking in and my boss is sitting there actually asking questions about me. Now, not in a way that's goes against HR rules and guidelines. I know that there are realms we cannot ask about, but we can ask a human how they're doing. We can actually have a heart that when you say, "How you doing today?" It's not just that in passing because I'm on the elevator with you. It's the I really am going to stop for a second and listen to what you have to say. And then if they're telling you something that's hard, which often we're in a time right now where a lot of people are struggling,
Mhm.
if you hear something hard, all you have to say is, "That sounds hard." That's it. That's all they want is, oh, okay, they understand I'm going through something hard. That's it. You don't have to say, "I understand," or, "Oh, let me make it better," or, "Sorry, woe is you." No, it's just, that must be hard. That's
Yeah.
it. And I think that as leaders, when we step into that curiosity and we allow that moment of just, "I see you," then that's what people are looking for. And that's connection. I just got full body goosey. So I hope that was a good response.
No, that was great because I think that that empathy piece, I think people are afraid sometimes of what they're going to hear. And I've often said to leaders, you're not there to solve their problems. You're there to hear. And if you wish, you could say to them, is there anything you need from me?
Yeah.
Just leave it at that. Let them tell you. And they just may say no, or depending on what they're going through, they may say, well, I may have to leave early because something's going on. I've got a loved one in a hospital and I want to be there. Great. That I can help you with that. But I think so many people are afraid that if I hear something, I need to do something with it. You don't. To your point, they just want to be seen and heard. And Once you know they're going through something, having that empathy and that compassion to know that they're having an off day and that's okay because we all have those days. But to your point, nobody's walked in their shoes, so you don't have the answers for them. Yeah, that's great.
Just asking them, how can I support you in this? And then maybe going one step further and put something in your task list, in your calendar, just check in 2 weeks. Because so many times we sit down and have these deep, heartfelt conversations and then we never talk about it again. And it's like, they got through it. It's like, but did they? Are
Yeah.
they still struggling? Or is there remnants? Do they want to be seen for that? Like, I would just check in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks later and just say, hey, I'm just checking in on that conversation we had a couple weeks ago. You doing okay? And then they go, yeah, or no, or whatever. I think there's just space like that follow up is almost just as meaningful as the first message and that first conversation because there's a level of like you tell something to someone and you kind of want them to remember
Right.
versus like if they're just, oh, it's my boss, they're just doing it because they have to versus, you know, wow, they know they really heard this and they followed up a couple weeks later, which means they're still thinking about me.
Right.
Right. And so all we have to do is automate it. That's a little automated task you could do right there. It's just
Yeah.
something to pop up to remind you to check in.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Love, love, love that. I think that human side is so important, particularly now with everything going on just in the world, let alone in our own personal lives. And I've been sharing with people, I have this t-shirt. It says, it's got two words. It says humankind, and then it says on the back, be both,
Yeah.
right? You can be human, you can be kind. Don't judge. You haven't walked in their shoes. Just listen. That's to your point. That's all they want. That, yeah, that gave me goosebumps too. So thank you.
Always the goal, right? Make your hair
That's
grow.
right. That's right. So let's talk a little bit about, for the individuals that have families, and there's tons of people that have families. I know you focus on mothers and allowing them to spend more time with their children. It's really hard nowadays to find that true balance. And I call it today's balance leader. Balanced is very loose, but it's giving you tools in maybe how to find some balance, right? What strategies do you teach for balancing that professional growth and life with maintaining meaningful relationships at home? Because I'll be honest, at one point, even I struggled with that years ago. It had to
Yeah.
be one or the other, right? How do you find both?
Yeah, that's something, this is such a big conversation because some people pick the side where they're like, oh, there is no such thing as having it all. And then there are other people that are like, well, you just have to sacrifice this. It's like at the end of the day, no matter what we choose, there is always a sacrifice, right? And so I think even in just the choice of having a family and starting a family, you're choosing to sacrifice a lot of different things. But my belief is that there is a way, and it just means that it's going to look a little bit different. While if we put 100% into our business, the business could scale and do this and that, great. If we put 100% to our family, it could do this and we could go there, great. Understanding that we're going to find some sort of harmony between the two of these. Balance is a great word. I really like harmony as well.
Mhm.
But finding a harmony is really going to be the best. What that requires is the acceptance that you're never going to reach the pinnacle of either of those. And it's a hard conversation. At the same time, I think there is a realm of creating a new pinnacle that combines the two because I'm not convinced that all family or all work is the right place. I'm convinced that we do need both. We've talked a lot about human connection today, and I think family is one of those primary places that we get human connection. And there is a place for purpose in life and showing up and being useful in this world. And that's where career comes into play. And so it's this balance, this harmony, right? It's this how do I go back and forth? I think the first part is giving yourself grace to realize that there are seasons in life.
Mm.
And some seasons in life might be the first couple years of a business where you really have to go hard. Other seasons of life might be where your kids are 2, 3, and 4 years old and you really need to be home, right? There are different seasons of everything. And the best way to get the best of both of these worlds and to find that harmony is to set boundaries. And I know you've talked about boundaries plenty of times on this show, and I think there is something to taking the tips that we give on automation, and maybe that's the automation that you sit down with your phone and you really automate. It's that For example, my phone at specific time of the day, it will actually turn the red light filter on my phone so that my eyes at the end of the day don't have all the, we're not going to get all scientific and stuff. It helps me sleep better. So,
Yep.
and so at the end of the day, now what that does for me also is the moment my phone turns red, I stop working on work. So it's a very easy visual for me. If I pick up my phone and it's red, I'm not working. I'll scroll or I'll do whatever else. I'll message friends. Like I can still do stuff, but I'm not actively working. So it does that at different times of my day so that I can set boundaries around my work. And it's not in a way that it's like you can get apps where you can't actually physically open certain apps. And I also do personal and business on the same apps. So that wouldn't really work for me. I'm a very visual human. So visual and kinesthetic are two very big things for me. So the actual visual of watching my phone go red is very easy for me to go, oh, work day's done. Okay, cool. And it does it automatically. So it's not like I have to say, well, it's 5:30. Well, I can just push it till 6 o'clock. Let me just go another 30 minutes and another 5. No, my phone just told me you're done for the day. And that really was helpful for me because I used to literally work all day. My predominance is 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. That's my best time. And then I get into this world where I'm like, oh, well, maybe I'll just work into the afternoon. Oh, maybe just to 5 o'clock. And I used to just go and I'd work from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. And it was just like all day, every day. As a solo entrepreneur, there's always something else to do. And I found that setting this up on my phone has helped me to cut the beginning and the end, right? So I cut out some of that. There's also room for more. And I mean more in the sense that less is more. I used to have like the endless to-do lists where, every time that one thing came off the top, three more things went on the bottom. You probably have a couple of those laying around. I just changed that to the big three. Every day I have just three big things that I'm looking to get done in that day. And if I can get those big three things done, then my day is a win. And then anything else on top of that is like an extra celebration. And so, like, for example, today I had a workout this morning. That's one big thing. We have this podcast. That's another big thing. And I have another podcast after this. That's three big things. And if I get those three things done, I get to celebrate my day. And if I don't get those big three things done, but I did something else that was maybe on another day, I'm going to give myself grace. I'm still going to celebrate because I got three big things done. Maybe it wasn't the one on my list. I think what it is give yourself that ability to go with the flow of it, right? That ability to not be so rigid because that rigidity used to control every aspect of what was happening. And now when you give it the flow, I think it leaves more room for the magic to happen. And it leaves more room for like the unexpected to come into your day. But really setting those boundaries, I think, is what's going to help. So those people with families, set your phone. Literally just go into the phone. And I think Android has it too. I just don't know how. But if you go into the phones, you can Google it real easy. How do I turn on the red light feature on my phone? There's plenty of videos. If you set that up and just tell yourself that whatever time it turns on, whether that's 5, 5:30, 6, 6:30, whatever that looks like, just say, once that red light is on, it's family time and family time only, right? Just like you show up and you clock in at a certain time for work, you want to do the same thing with your family. Treat your family just the same degree you would like a meeting on the calendar is the same thing as like your kids' football or baseball game, right? That's important too. That is like a meeting on the calendar. We want to treat it as such. I think there is a level of setting those boundaries and making certain aspects feel just as important as others because sometimes we slip into like this meeting's so important and like that baseball game there's 16 more in the season. It's like, no, every moment with your family is important. And it is that key meeting. So I think that's the balance I would choose. I know I threw a little automation in there for you, but we're just gonna drop nuggets of gold all day today.
No, yeah, that's great because I think to your point, a lot of people will forego their personal whatever it is with their kids for themselves, whatever, miss going to the gym, whatever it is, because something else is more important. And I actually do the three things as well every day. What are the three things that I'm going to accomplish every day? If I get more done, bonus. But I think, so I had a client this morning. I have this podcast, and then actually I have another call with respect to the virtual retreats that I'm doing. So there's the three things. In between, of course, I'm sending emails and responding, things like that. Those are just extras to your point that I get to do, but those are the three big things. Because if you, and I used to be the person who had the list, take one off, add three. And I think it puts a lot of shame and blame on ourselves when we don't get it, because we wonder what's wrong with us. Why can't I get this list knocked? I mean, trust me, I tried it all where I had the to-do list in a jar and you'd pull one out and you'd had to do it. I've tried it all. But, when you focus on what's really important, what's critical, those are the things that you want to spend that intentionality behind it and that time into it. And I think, at the end of the day, we talked a little bit about this. We talked about purpose already, but I'm going on in my years. And so I'm big around legacy and what's my legacy going to be? And my legacy is not going to be that I work 60-hour weeks. That can't be my legacy, right? So what is the purpose of why I do what I do? To help people to live that better life, to live more authentically and help them to connect with that. And so I'm hoping is going to be my legacy around helping people and being that kind human that can show people that it's possible in a really tough world to still be kind and have empathy and grace and set those non-negotiable boundaries, right? And your family should be that, because
Absolutely.
we work to provide for our family, right?
It's the end goal for most people anyway. So might as well prioritize it. Don't wait till you get to the end to finally get there. I think the other point to make here is like when we talk about the three big things, we're not just talking about picking three things. Because I think, like you said, we'll do ancillary things here and there, and they all move us forward. It's what are the three things that if I do today are going to move the needle, are actually going to get me in the direction I'd like to go? Because I could very well fill my calendar with a whole bunch of things that make me feel like I'm getting stuff done, but not actually making any forward progress. So when I talk about these three things, and I know hearing your three things is the same thing, these are things that are going to actually move you forward, move the needle, make a difference. And then I think if we can focus on three big things like that each day, there's no way you're not going to see progress in 6 months or a year.
I love that. Love that. So let me ask you, we talked a little bit, you spoke lightly on it, but let's talk about your healthy emotional regulation app and the 5 M's. Because it's really a game changer, I think, for busy professionals, right? It can help them integrate into their routines. That's going to help them reduce the stress. So it's being productive, and it's going to help them show up as their best selves and enhance productivity. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your app and the 5 M's?
Absolutely. So this app called Healthy Emotional Regulation is something I spent a good amount of time last year, about 6 months building it, launched it in June. Now, this was made for my girlfriends who were struggling emotionally. I have had a couple girlfriends over the last few years go through some massive stuff, and I live in another state, so I couldn't necessarily be there every time. I couldn't just show up and sit with them when they needed it. So I built this app so that I could put things in there that could help. And so what I did was I created the 5 M's. That's movement. So there are movement sessions, stretching and foam rolling, and we're going to add some dance and some at-home workouts, all those things. Anything to get you up and moving. Then we have meditation. This is for me less thinking and more feeling. This is more about getting you to feel and sit in those emotions that we are attracting into our life. So just an easy meditation. And there are guided meditations throughout the app. And so we have our movement, our meditation, our mindfulness, which is for me, it's the curiosity. It's that learning something new every day to make your mind full. And so it's a lot of resources for books and YouTube channels, things of that nature. Also different databases and things that you can utilize in your life to help automate things and to help streamline things that you're dealing with. We also have manifestation. This is a big one because when I first started talking about these things, I only did 3 M's. Then I decided, looking at my clients, that the ones who were getting the best results were the ones who were actively speaking about their future on a regular basis. So affirmations, actually speaking to another person about your future, whether it's talking about your plans on a podcast or just with a friend in a conversation, but manifesting by actually speaking forward in your life every day. And then the last one is more. And more to me is our self celebration. That's our ability to find those small wins every day. I did my three things. Yes, small win. Like, today I went into the gym and I had a girlfriend. She just texted me and said, "Hey, I wasn't feeling great today." And so I opened the app and I listened to a meditation, and hearing your voice gave me a moment of happiness. And me, I'm like, "That's my win for today." And they're like dancing around the gym, and like, you were like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yep." And so it's like, those are the five things. These are the things that I found over the last decade were what helped me stay on the positive side of life. So, like everyone else, I slip into depression every now and again, whether it's seasonal or whether it's just has its other relations. I don't know. All I know is that there are days where I don't struggle at all. And so I'm like, what was I doing on those days that I wasn't doing on the other days? Well, these five M's were those things. I was moving my body, whether it was a workout or just walking outside, stretching, dancing. I was meditating for at least 10 minutes in the morning. I was mindfully learning something new every day. I was speaking my future out into this world, and I was celebrating myself every day. And by doing those five things, I found it was really easy to maintain that healthy emotional regulation that I was looking for. So this was all a result of a 10-year journey that I went through before this, where I had 7 cysts on my vulva over 10 years. So 7 different surgeries that I had to go through to remove this. And it wasn't until the end when I started to really realize that there was a pattern, that there was something happening. And I went through the process of actually healing this with myself through a series of things. And then that all led to the app. That all led to me sitting here and going, there are other women and men who are suffering. They're in pain mentally, emotionally, and physically. How can I help? Because I knew I was learning things and experiencing things with myself and my clients. I've had hundreds of clients now who have all had these same things. And I'm like, there's something here. So I finally built this app. That is what this is for. And it's not just for women. It is purple, so get over it. But it's not just for women. It's literally for anyone who's struggling. And the best part about the app is it's for you guys. So I'm here to listen. There are vote now surveys throughout it. So if you want a specific meditation, just say, "Hey, Jayna, I'd love this kind of a meditation. This is what I'm thinking." You send it in, it comes right to me. I'm going to sit here and go, "Okay, cool." And I'm going to create a meditation, record it, and put it right in the app. And then I'll probably message you and go, "Hey, Marcia, here's your meditation." It's like now everybody gets it, but because one person asked.
Love
So
that.
that's what this is for. It's for the community. It's for everybody who's struggling and just needs somewhere to go that's safe, that's calm, and that people will support them in the process.
Yeah, it's a great tool to be able to provide to others. So, as leaders, there are times, to your point, where we all don't feel great or we need that pick me up or whatever that is. And I think that app is great for individuals for themselves, but also once you've tested it and tried it, to be able to offer it to other people and say, "Hey, you know what, check this out," because I think that's taking care of each other. And that's really what we should be doing. We should be taking care of each other. And we're all going to go through difficult times, whether it's loss of a job, grief, just having a crappy day, marriage problems, children problems. I mean, there's so many problems, right? Work problems, having a fight with a colleague, whatever it is. And it's just, I think, when we can take that step back and pause, a lot of times we can deal with it before it starts to impact us emotionally, mind, body, spirit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
That
great.
pausing, that breathing, that grounding, really just taking a moment, that is the difference between reacting to something and responding to something. And I think that's the difference is sometimes people get stuck in that constantly reacting to everything that's happening around them all the time. And if we just pause a little bit to slow down, it'll give you that space. And I know it's asking a lot to pause and slow down when we feel like we're running a million miles an hour, can never get it all done. But I'm telling you, there's something to less is more. When you sit and give yourself that 10-minute meditation, the amount of clarity you get is it's going to give you that extra hour back because we would otherwise sit there and spend 20, 25, 30 minutes trying to make a decision. Well, what if this and what if that and what that clarity comes through sitting in silence for 10 minutes. That decision becomes so much easier and then you can move forward with confidence and with ease. And so if you feel like I don't have time for this, that's exactly what you need to be doing. because this is not a waste of time. In fact, it's going to only propel you forward, and it's going to make the rest of everything that you're dealing with so much easier. Because, like you said, it's that overwhelm, that burnout that we get into. I describe it with my clients. Like, if you've ever been to a friend's house who's super depressed, it's either the kitchen and the sink or it's in the laundry. And so it's one of two things. Either they've used every dish in their house and now they've gone out to get paper and plastic and it's like piled up and it's just bad, or they've used every piece of clothing and now they're going out and buying new clothing because they don't want to do the laundry, right?
It's
So
true.
our job as practitioners and the tools that we're giving you to be able to tap into these things, these are here to help you do all the dishes. That way, next time you get angry, next time you get sad, next time something comes up, it's just one dish. Now, all you have to do is wash that one dish, use the tool we give you, and then put it back away, and you're ready. You're never going to feel that overwhelming amount of pressure on you anymore because you're just going to do it right when it comes up.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that's anger. Let me process that versus it going straight from anger to rage.
Well, and I think that awareness, right, is so key. I often talk about the awareness because once you become aware of it, then you can deal with it in a different way. Where when you're not aware of it, you're reactive, right? So it's that awareness that is so key in changing any patterns or triggers. So yeah, I love that. And Jana has an offer. I was just double checking. You have an offer for our listeners. If you're interested in her app, and I'll put it in the show notes. She's going to give you 3 months free with a code. So I'll make sure I include that code because I think
I
that's
have something
fabulous.
even better for you is that the
Oh,
app is actually entirely free now. So
oh, there
nobody
you
has.
go. There you
So
go.
I decided this year too many people are struggling and that it doesn't make sense
I
for me to
love
try and make
that.
a few bucks off people. So it's all free. So feel free. Go.
So there you go. There's no reason not to use it.
Yes, 100% use it. Send it to a friend, family member, whoever else you think could use it. I'm happy to get the feedback. If there's something you don't like or you want more of, please just let me know. It's truly a passion project that is turning into something that's changing lives.
I
So to
love
me,
that.
that blows me away each and every day. And if I can continue to do that any way that I can help, I'm happy to do so.
What a beautiful contribution to just helping people through difficult times because it is so hard. It is so hard for people to get help nowadays. So for the fact that there's something available that's even to your point, if there's something that you want on there and you just send it to you and you create it and put it on there for everybody, it just blows my mind. I don't know, that it's just so kind to be able to offer something like that to people when they're going through difficult times because there's such a high need. And like I said, people don't know where to turn to. So I will make sure I include it in the show notes and we'll make sure that it's part of the clips when we advertise this episode. So thank you. Yeah. Jana, last question. I always ask every person that I speak to, what do you think is the biggest thing you've learned throughout your journey that you want to share with the listeners?
So I'll share with you something that one of my doctors shared with me. This is the doctor that completely changed my life after being botched by another one a couple times. He said to me, if you don't get the root of the problem, the symptoms will persist. That has changed everything in my life because I realized over and over that it's not just a reoccurring issue. It's a reoccurring problem and it's stemming from something else. And that until you go in and actually rip that root of the problem out of there, it's going to keep happening. And so while that showed up on a physical level in my world, it's also showed up time and time and time again in every other aspect. So that is my golden nugget of wisdom is that if you don't get the root of the problem, the symptoms will persist.
You know what? As you're saying that, I'm thinking of dandelions.
Mm.
I don't know if you have them in Florida, but when you have a weed, don't get at the root of it and pull the root out. The weed's going to continue to come back. So, I love that. That is such a powerful reminder to people that if you want to change your life, you really need to look in the mirror and dig deep,
Yeah.
not just surface.
Yeah, I mean, life is a mirror. And if you want to change the reflection that you're getting back out of it, you have to change the image that you're putting into it, which means the only thing that will change your reflection is you.
Yes. Beautiful. And on that note, I want to thank you so much for being a guest on our podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I know entrepreneurs and leaders will have gotten some beautiful nuggets out of this. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm so excited, and thank you for having me here today.
My pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to today's Balanced Leader. If you want to go even deeper, then visit my website at carolinebarrett.com, find some free resources, and look at all the different ways that I can support you to become your best self. Remember, change begins with just one small step. It's those tiny actions that start you on the path to achieving your dreams and finding balance. And as always, life is an experience. So take a moment to enjoy the journey and appreciate the progress you make along the way. Until next time, keep taking those small steps, savor the journey, and lead with courage and authenticity. This is Caroline reminding you to stay bold, stay balanced, and keep moving confidently towards your dreams.